Hello developers, welcome back. Last month I have created two videos on Laravel Sanctum. First was on SP authentication and second was on token based authentication using Sanctum package. And I got very good response on that videos. So if you have not watched that video, strongly recommend you to watch that video also. After that Laravel Sanctum tutorial, I have got few requests that how we can use Laravel Passport package to create authentication in the Laravel application. So today in this lesson we will implement authentication using this passport package in the Laravel app. Before moving ahead, a quick reminder, if you are new to this channel, hit the red subscribe button and press bell icon so when I upload new videos you get notified. This Laravel Passport package is used to create a full OAuth 2 server implementation in the Laravel app. So if you have requirement to create OAuth 2 authorization, then this package is right choice. Otherwise, I will recommend to use Sanctum package because Sanctum package is very lightweight and easy to implement. Anyway, let's see how we can use this passport package to implement authentication in the Laravel app. So let's install it first. To install it, we will run this composer command in the terminal. Now it's installed. Next, this Laravel Passport also provides database migrations. So next we will run this artisan migrate command in the terminal to create tables in the database. Now let's see the database. Refresh. Passport package has created these 5 tables. Now let's see the next step. Next we will run this passport install command. This passport install command will create inscription keys that need to generate secure access tokens. So let's run this command in the terminal. And it has created 2 inscription keys. One is for the personal access client and second is for the password grant client. And if we go to the database, now right here in the auth client, here is the record for the 2 encryption key. Now let's see the next step. Next we will use this has API tokens trait in the user class. So let's copy this and in the editor let's navigate to app user.php and here we will say has API tokens and let's import this class. Next in the auth service provider we need to register passport routes. So in the providers auth service provider, right here we will paste passport routes and let's import this class. Now if we go to terminal and here if I run php artisan route list, let me zoom out a little bit, and here these routes are created by passport package. Now let's go to the documentation. Next in the config auth.php, here in the API we need to set driver passport. So let's go to the config auth.php and right here in this API driver is token. Here I will replace it with passport. Now our basic configuration is done. Next we will implement authentication. If you scroll up, and here are the type of authorization that Laravel Passport provide. We are going to use this personal access token. So for that we will need to run this command in the terminal, but we have already run the passport install command, so we can skip this. Next we will add this environment variables in the .env file. So let's go to editor and in the .env file here we will paste the environment variables. First is the personal access client ID, that is this one, Laravel personal access client, that is 1, and second is the personal access client secret and that secret is this one. Let's copy this and I'll paste that here. It's done. Now let's see the next step. Our next step is to paste this in the auth service provider. So in the auth service provider, right here we will paste that. It's done. Now we can manage the personal access token like here in this example. Now we will implement login feature in the our application. So first let's create the login controller. So here I'll run php artisan make controller login controller. Here we have login controller. Let's close all of these, and in the routes api.php, here I'll create route login controller at login. Next, in the login controller, here I'll create method login, and this login method will accept request $request. So first step in this login method is to validate the request. So here I'll say request validate. The first validation is the email validation, that is required, and it must be email. Second is the password, and that is also required. Next we will fetch user where email is request email, and fetch the first record. Next here we will say if user not found or hash check $request password $user password. If user not found or the request password and user password does not match, then we will throw validation exception with messages email, and here I'll pass message the provided credentials are incorrect. Otherwise, if we found the user and request password and user password is correct, then here I'll create access token for that user. So here I'll say $user create token, and then here I'll pass the token name. Let's say that is auth token, and next we will say access token. Next, let's return this. Now to test this login API, first let's create a user. So in the terminal, here I'll run php artisan tinker, and here I'll create user using factory method, and let's pass app user class and then create, and here it has created a user. Now let's exit it, and here I'll run php artisan ser command. Now let's try this login API in the Postman. So here method is post, our URL is api/login, and in the header first here pass content type is application JSON and accept application JSON. Now let's send this. Post method does not support for this route. I think in the API here I have set get. Instead of this it should be post route. Now let's try send this, and now we get validation error. Email and password field is required. So let's pass the email, this one, and password is password. Now this has given us the access token. Next let's try this access token. So here in the API route we already have this user route. That user route returns the authenticated user. So here instead of login, here we will say user, and in the header here we will pass authorization. Next here we will say bearer, and then paste the access token. Now click send. The post method does not supported. Here it should be get method. Send it again, and here we get the authenticated user data. Now let's use this API in the frontend app. For that I am going to use same Vue app that I have used in the Laravel Sanctum tutorial. So here I go to GitHub QiroLab, and let's open this Laravel Sanctum example, and I am going to copy this repository. Next let's go to terminal. I'm going to split this terminal, go to one directory back. Here I'll clone that repository, cd Laravel Sanctum, and here I am going to change branch git checkout API token authentication branch. Next let's go to the Vue App. Now let's open this in the editor. Next here I'll run npm install to install all the dependency. While it is installing, let's review this Vue App. So here in the source directory in the main.js, I have used the bootstrap CSS for styling, and in the routes index.js, here we have routes for home page, login page, register and dashboard. And in the components we have navigation component. This component contains the navigation link like login, register, and here is the Laravel Sanctum. Let's replace this Sanctum with passport. Next in the views directory, here is the dashboard view, home view, here is the Laravel Sanctum. Replace this with Laravel Passport tutorial. This is the login view and this is the register view. Next here in the APIs directory, this is the API. We will review it in a moment, and here is the CSRF. Let's remove it. Here is the user API. I strongly recommend you to watch the Sanctum tutorial, because in that video I have implemented the full authentication step by step in this Vue app. For now I'm going to give you small overview what is going in this app, but for the full detail you must watch the Sanctum tutorial I have created. So first let's see this API.js. Here I have imported the Axios, and next here we have a base API variable, and this base API is equal to axios.create, and I have passed the base URL, this localhost API. I have put this URL directly in the API.js, but the best practice is to use environment variable. Next I have the API variable, and it is the closure function. In this closure function, first what we did, we fetched the token from the local storage and store that in this token variable. If we have token variable, then we're gonna attach the authorization header with bearer and then token like this, and then we return this base API. Next we export that API variable. Next in the user.js, we import that API from the API.js, and we have created the register, login, logout and auth method for the user API. This register API just simply post the register route with this given form data, and similarly this login method post the login route with the form data, and logout method post the logout route, and in this auth user fetch the user. Next in the login.view, here we have a login form, and right here on click this login button, it executes this login method, and this login method executes user login method, and this user login method is from this user API, and in this user.js right here, this is the login method. After the user successfully logged in, we emit the login event using event bus, and using this user login we get the token response in the response data, and that we have stored in the local storage. Next we redirected to the dashboard, and right here we have handled the validation errors. Similarly in the register.view, we have registration form, and on click this register button, we executed this register method, and in this register method we call the user.register method, that is again from the user API, this one, and then we redirected to the login page. Here we have handled the validation errors. Next, in the dashboard.view, here we simply hit the user auth method, that is in the user.js, this method, and this response gives us the user data that is displayed right here. If you want to see the step-by-step implementation of this Vue app, must watch the Sanctum tutorial. Now let's go to the terminal. npm installation is finished. Next, here I'll run npm run serve. Now it's done. Now let's open this URL in the browser. Here it is. Here in this Vue app, we don't need any modification. It will just work. Here we go to the login page and let's try to log in with the user, this one, and here we paste the email address and password is password. Hit the login button and it worked. Let's go to the inspect tool and in the application local storage, here we have token. Next, in the Laravel app, we have not created the API for logout and register, so let's implement this. So in the Laravel app, API route, here let's create the register route, register and register controller at register. Now let's create this register controller. So in the terminal, PHP artisan make controller register controller. Next, register controller, here I'll create method register and it will accept request $request. Next, let's validate the request $request validate. First, let's validate name, it is required. Next is email, that is also required and it should be email and it should also be unique in the users table. Next is the password and that is also required and it should be minimum 8 letters and it should be confirmed. After the validation, let's create the user and make sure to import that user model, and name is equal to request name, email is request email and password is hash make $request password. Now here, if you want, you can return any response, but let's leave it here. Now we have register API. Next, in the api.php, here I'll create logout route. First, fix this spelling mistake, register. Next, let's create the logout route. So logout controller is login controller at logout middleware auth API. Let's create this logout method. In the login controller, here we'll say method logout. It is going to accept request $request. Next, in this method, here I'll say $request user tokens and delete that token. That's done here. Now let's test this in the app. So refresh. Just forgot to run artisan serve command, php artisan serve. Now let's go to browser, refresh, and here we go, it's working. And if we log out, now let's see the register. Reach at example.com, password, successfully got registered. Now let's log in this user. we are successfully logged in. Now here, the same Vue app we have used in this Sanctum worked without making any changes. I have also got a request that to use the Vuex in this authentication system. If you don't know about Vuex, Vuex is a store management package for the Vue.js. So next I'm going to use Vuex in this app to give you an idea how you can use the Vuex store to implement authentication. So the basic idea is that we will create a global state auth, and that global state auth will be shared with every component. Let's implement this. So first let's install the Vuex. So in the terminal, here I'll run npm install Vuex. It's done. Now npm run serve. Now in the editor, let's close this. Here in the source directory, I'll create store.js. Here let's import Vue from Vue, import from Vuex. Next here I'll say Vue.use Vuex, and next I'll export default new Vuex dot store, and here we will have state, getters, mutations, and actions. Next in the main.js, here I will import store from and that store I will pass in this Vue instance. That's done. Next here in the store.js, here I'll create global auth, and in this auth state we have login. Initially it is false, and next we have user, and initially it is empty array. Now in the views login.view, here I'll say after user is successfully logged in. Now here we are using Vuex, so we don't use this event bus. Instead here I'll commit a mutation. So this dot $store dot commit and then mutation name, that is login, and here I will pass true. Now let's create this mutation. And so in the store.js, here in the mutation, here I'll say login mutation, and it is going to accept state status. And next here I'll say state dot auth dot login is equal to status. Now here, after login successfully, we get the response data as token. We did not get any user data. So here I will also set state auth dot user empty. Now here it is done. Next in the dashboard, right here in this user auth, we get the user data in the response. So here first we will set this dot $store dot commit auth user mutation, and then we pass the response dot data. Next here we will not use this user, so first remove this, and we will remove this also, and here I will import map state from Vuex. Here I'll create computed property map state user state state.auth.user. Here is these 3 dots. It's done here. And finally we will also modify the component navigation.js. Now here we have a data property is logged in. instead of this, in the store method I'll create getter is logged in. It is going to accept state and it will return state.auth.login. Next, in the navigation.js, here I will import map getters from Vuex. Now we can remove this, and here I'll create computed property using spread operator map getters, and here we will fetch is logged in. And now in the mounted hook, we don't need this event, we can remove this. Next, in the logout method, right here we will say this dot $store dot commit login mutation, and here we'll pass false. Now we need to modify this mount hook also. So when user refresh the page, we will see if in the local storage we have token, then we will commit the login mutation. So here I'll say this dot $store dot commit mutation login, and next we will pass this right here. Now we can remove it. I think the ideal place for this mount is the root app, so I'm going to remove it, and in the app.view I'll paste it right here in the root app component. Let's go to the browser, refresh, unknown mutation auth user, that is in the dashboard.view right here. We forget to create this mutation, so in the store.js right here we will say auth user state, let's say user, and next here we will say state.auth.user is equal to user. That's all. Let's go to browser, refresh, and here we go, we have user data. If we see in the view tab, Vuex, first it has committed the login and set the login status true, and this dashboard view has commit the auth user mutation, and in this auth user mutation it has the user payload data, and that it has updated this user object in the state, and here is the getter is logged in true. Now if we log out, here it has commit the login mutation, the payload is false. Now it has the auth login false, and user is now empty array, and now this is logged in, getter is also false. Now let's try login again. Here we go, we are logged in, and if we see the state, we have auth login true, and here is the user object. Here is the basic idea how you can use Vuex store to manage the authentication in the Vue app. And of course it is not the best way to organize this store. I just try to give you the basic idea how you can use it. If you want to learn how to manage the stores for the large application, for that I have already created a video on namespace and modules in Vuex. You must watch that video also. This is all in this lesson. If you like the video, hit the like button, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe us. See you in the next lesson.